Joining me on the telecast is Burzine Wagmar. Burzine, thank you so much. And, the chaos that seems to have been contained in the last 24 to 48 hours, but not without bloodshed, because when you see, as per unconfirmed reports, more than 1,000 people that have died, and mostly Alawites, and strong statements coming in from the Middle Eastern nations, especially Iran and Turkey, and Turkey wanting to intervene in this matter to stop the violence. Do you think the worst is over?
Far from it. And what we have just witnessed with these sectarian bloodletting by HTS, an ex-Al Qaeda affiliate, among other Sunni militant groups towards Ismaili Alawites, they are Ismaili Shia, by the way, the Nusayris or Alawites as they are, have simply been a delayed response. Even prior to the massacres which took place last week, 60,000 Alawites have fled Syria for Indonesia and Nigeria, as far afield as that. Turkey, of course, Ankara is responsible for fomenting all this by stage managing and putting Ahmed al-Shara into place to lead this so-called transitional government. The only redeeming feature, if I can even put it as a saving grace, is that unlike Iraq, there has been no widespread looting in the wake of the fall of the Baathists, Saddam's Baathists there. In this case here, Assad's Baathists, who ran Syria for 53 years. What has happened is that the army has literally headed for the hills. So it practically doesn't exist anymore, the National Army. 1.3 million of the Syrian civil service, who constituted the steel frame of the Syrian administration, have been sacked. There's been no question of even de-Baathification to absorb them and to set the country right again, which of course is needed as children are scavenging food from dumpsters. Syria is not just metaphorically, but literally broke. And what we heard on December after Shara taking power was that Doha and Riyadh would step in to pay the civil servants' salaries. Qatar has done nothing of the sort so far because the foreign minister doesn't even have time to take his calls, the Syrian foreign minister. And there are electricity shortages throughout the country for about 12 to 15 hours. So that's another issue, among a host of other issues. Coming back to the Iranian question, of course, Iran has shown its true colors in the region when Tehran announced last week that it is prepared to assist opposition forces to Shara and therefore show what its take is on the government in Damascus. Abu Dhabi, UAE, has been very, very cautious and cagey since December in skittishly welcoming it, but because of his jihadist tendencies and not having such ripples created in the region towards it, it is using a very long spoon to sup with Shara. Likewise, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, only Turkey is gung-ho about it, and for a very good reason, because obviously they put him in place as their man. But then there are other complications too, besides the Syrian minority and Christians who've been targeted by these Sunni militants. You see, the Kurds constitute an ethno-linguistic minority as Sunni Muslims, and they control 3 provinces currently in northeast Syria, where also US forces are stationed. And both of them, the 2,000 US troops on ground, along with this SDP, the Syrian Democratic Forces led by the Kurds, are there to check ISIS. And of course, the Turks have been pressing Washington to remove their troops, which would be open season on the Kurds, as they only very well know where Ankara's position is on the Turks, as Turkish irredentists on their side of the border. But the Kurds have this trump card as they hold that they require the US troops, and they are cagey of merging completely with the so-called new army in dialogue with Shara and Damascus, because they are, as we speak, controlling and have incarcerated 70,000 IS fighters and dependents. And you can imagine what would happen if the Turks were to see a vacuum exist if the Kurds are removed from there, or if Shara's fellow Sunni jihadists were to take control of those prisons where those IS fighters are currently.
So, but then, what is the genesis of this fresh fighting that has taken place between the security forces of the newly established government under Mohammed al-Julani after the Assad exile took place, after he was ousted from power, because there seemed to be some sort of temporary peace that was witnessed for about a couple of months. It seemed as if things were falling into place. So what led to this fresh skirmish and this deadly attack that was worse than what happened 2 months ago? There were not as many casualties and fatalities and destruction of property that happened during the ouster of al-Assad as it has happened in the last 72 hours.
It's just payback time. That's Middle Eastern politics and Muslim sectarianism for you and I. They were just waiting in the wings to, to actually avenge their insult for the last 53 years, because the Alawites as a minority controlled a predominantly Sunni country. So these were jihadists who were dead set against Assad's secular policies, where, and this must be said, it was a venal, corrupt regime, but it at least was secular in the sense that the Baathists in Syria were secular, in that all Syrians were inclusively considered as citizens of one republic, whether Christians or Muslims. That must be given to the Baathists, but that, of course, doesn't go down well with these jihadist outfits, the Sunni outfits. So it was only a question of them, stepping in to take over, and it is, like I said, typical payback time in the Middle East with mafia-style politics. And what has happened is one set of tyrants has replaced another set of tyrants. Jolani, that is Ahmad Shara, has put his brother and uncle and other men now in charge of ministries. And of course, they are calling the shots. So there is no question of setting up a new meritocracy, or after the bloody civil war, which saw over 12 million Syrians leave the country, and to put the place right. Like I said, there is nothing in the national exchequer to pay salaries. Nothing has been done to actually reintegrate the civil service or to have any semblance of a government running on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And it is going to get worse.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for joining me on the telecast and sharing.